Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just going to give it a minute or two as people continue to trickle in, but we're so excited to see you here today and have you join us for our application tips webinar about the GBS, the Master in Management program, Masters in Management Studies in Global Business and Society here at Yale SOM. So again, we're just going to give it a minute or two as people continue joining, but we're so happy to see you here today and to talk a little bit more about our application for this program. All right, great. I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome again. My name is Evelyn Wilson. I'm the Senior Associate Director here at the Yale School of Management for the Master in Management programs. Again, we're here talking about the application tips that we have as parts of the admissions committee for the GBS, the Global Business and Society program here at Yale SOM. I'm joined here today with my colleague Matt. Do you want to pop in and say hi, Matt?
Hi, everyone. My name's Matthew Lassance. I'm the Assistant Director for Admissions. Excited to share some tips so that we get to see some great applications in the near future.
Thanks, Matt. So the way this webinar is going to work is Matt and I are going to kind of go back and forth and talk in detail about each element of our application, what we're looking for in those parts of the application, and how to put your best foot forward in each aspect of the application. So we're not going to focus too much on the program itself today, but the GBS program is a full-time program. It's a year long and it's a residential program here at the School of Management. And it's designed as a complement for Master in Management programs. So all students must have completed or be working towards completing a Master in Management program in order to be eligible for the GBS program. So keep that in mind. And for more information about the program itself, we have other webinars that are currently on our website, and also lots of information online as well, of course. And of course, feel free to reach out to us at any time as well. But today we really want to focus in on the application itself. Our round two deadline is coming up, so we want to make sure that all of you are excited and putting your best application forward. So that's really what we're focusing on today. So again, Matt and I are going to pass back and forth a little bit, and I'm going to hand it over to him to talk about our application pathways and timeline, and then we're going to really focus in on each element of the application. So over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Evelyn. So let's talk a little bit about sort of the pathways to Yale SOM and Yale GBS. So the GBS program has two different pathways, all of which lead to you getting your degree, the Yale GBS degree at Yale SOM. So we have our standard pathway, which maybe you're completing your MIM right now, or you've done your MIM in the last year or two, and you took a little time to work or do something in between, and now you're looking to go back and get a little bit more knowledge or shore up some skills. You would apply to the program. If admitted, you join us here at Yale SOM, and you're a member of the GBS cohort. The other pathway is the M2M pathway, and we have this pathway with a few of our partner schools. And this pathway, you would apply to both programs, the MIM degree as well as Yale SOM's GBS program at the same time before you've started either, and find out sort of if the next 2 years of your life are going to be whether it be UBC, HSA Paris, HKUST, and we work with a number of schools, but those three in particular. You find out if you're going to go to one of those schools for year one, and then join us here in year two and be a part of the LGBS program. Both pathways lead to the same degree. You just may have some students that they kind of knew, hey, here's the next 2 years of my life coming into it. And other students may have taken a little bit of a gap in between, or maybe are completing their MIM right now and applying to the program. Both pathways offer opportunities. And one of the great things, if you've seen some of our other webinars, the LGBS program offers students a lot of opportunity to really develop their curriculum and kind of shore up any of those skills. So it's a great opportunity for people in either pathway. Our timeline for the program or for the application at this time. So our round one deadline, which has passed, was January 8th. That round one is open to students exclusively from Global Network schools or GNAM schools. Rounds 2 and 3, which are open to students from across the world from any school. Those dates are February 19th and April 9th. Keep those in mind as you're looking to potentially apply for the program. Those deadlines are specific to the standalone. So if you're looking at sort of the M2M pathway, just a reminder, you're going to want to double check the M2M pathway dates for specific schools because those will be a little bit different. One thing to note, if you are looking at the program, we know sometimes students are looking a year ahead, so maybe they're looking to apply next year. These dates are roughly the same. You're going to see sort of early January, mid to late February, and then usually early April as sort of our 3 rounds that we have. So keep that in mind if you are thinking maybe not this year, but maybe next year to apply. And one other note, now that I'm thinking about it, apply when your application is at its strongest. I think this is a tip that Evelyn would agree with. We have students that sometimes think I have to apply in round one and get everything together and put it all in because that's going to be, the best opportunity. Round one is great. It's a great opportunity to find out early, be able to get started on housing, visas, all of those sorts of, things on getting here and getting squared away and settled in New Haven. So it's really great for that. We haven't admitted anybody at that point, so, it is always nice. You kind of get to be a part of the first group in the new cohort. But if your application isn't ready, applying in rounds 2 and 3, there is no, bad side to that, or there's no negative to that. We're going to look at every round holistically. We're looking at, is this person a good fit for the program? And if they are, there's absolutely an opportunity to be admitted and to get scholarship consideration. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at the different rounds and thinking about when is best to apply. So we're going to touch on a few different areas, and I really like this slide to kind of point this out. So we're going to touch on transcripts, test scores, looking at your resume, recommendation letters, video questions, essays, all of the pieces that come together to make a great application. The reason I like this slide, I think oftentimes people can overthink and focus in on one component of this. So maybe they really focus on, I need to have the perfect test score, or, my essays need to be absolutely perfect, but their transcripts and test scores may have lacked, or maybe they didn't put much thought into who was their recommender. It's really important that, all of these pieces are important pieces because they come together to make a great application. We're going to look at all of them holistically. We're going to look at every component of this. You're not just going to get tossed aside or rejected because of your GPA or because of your test score or because of your essays. We're looking at everything to really see what does this person bring, what have they done to this point, what do they want to do in the future, and how they connect with our mission here. So we'll dive into that, and I'll let Evelyn take over to get us started.
Thank you, Matt. Exactly right. As Matt was saying, we really take a holistic approach of reading and reviewing applications. And so there you got a preview of all of the different elements of the application that we're considering together. So one quick note, we will be reserving some time at the end of the session today for Q&A. So Matt and I will try our best to answer your questions live. Anything that we might not have covered that you're still wondering about in this session today. So hold your questions until the end because hopefully we'll answer a lot of them through the session. But if you still have questions that you'd like to ask at the end, please feel free to use the Q&A feature and ask us, and we'll do our best to answer. All right, so let's dive right in. Transcripts. The first element of our application that we require are transcripts. So transcripts are required from each degree granting institution. So that means if you have any transfer credits between schools, or if you went on exchange, perhaps, all of those transcripts we would like to see. This really helps us to paint the picture of your academic history and your academic successes in the past. So transcripts are a really important part of your story. We also want to see transcripts from your MIM program. We understand that, if you're currently in a MIM program, you might not have grades yet. And of course, if you're applying through M2M, you won't have grades yet, and we understand that, so that would be waived. But if you've already started your MIM program, we definitely want to see any grades that you have so far through that program. Unofficial transcripts are fine for your application, but if you're admitted and you enroll, we will need official transcripts by that point. Also, make sure that all of your transcripts are presented to us in English. The most important things that we're looking for on your transcript are your name, your institution's name, the dates that you attended, and the names, and of course, the grades in the classes that you took. So we really want to be able to see which classes you took. Part of the reason for this is because we're also looking for any quant experience that you might have had in the past and how you performed in those courses as well. It's not a requirement, especially from your undergrad, that you have taken quant classes, but it's definitely something that might help you in the GBS program. So that's definitely something that we are looking at in your transcripts. Test scores. So we do require the GMAT or the GRE test scores. Sometimes we get asked if these can be waived. Unfortunately, the answer is no. This is a really important part of our application, and the test score together with your transcripts are really how we're going to be able to assess your academic ability and your potential to not only succeed but really thrive in our academically rigorous program here at Yale School of Management. So these two things taken together are really how we're going to be able to determine that. But bear in mind, again, as we've been saying, these are just one or two elements of your application, and there are plenty of other ways to stand out if there's something that you're feeling a little unsure or a little nervous about on either your transcript or your test score. We also have an optional essay where you can share additional information if you feel that there would be something helpful for us to know about anything in your application in general. And I think Matt's going to touch on that later at the end. Um, if you don't have a test score yet, don't worry, you still have time, but this is something that we will need to see as part of your application. We also accept the newer GMAT Focus test exam or older scores as well. And over to Matt for the resume portion.
So let's dive into the resume a little bit because I think this is often a piece of the application that can be overlooked. It's easy to just upload your last resume that maybe you applied to a job with or that you used for something. And it's definitely one that you should make sure that you've updated and gotten ready for, this application as you would with any job. What we like to see is sort of a snapshot of your professional experience. 1 to 2 pages in length is perfect, a curated list of sort of what jobs you've done in chronological order. And really make sure that you include all work experience to date. And feel free to add, parenthetical descriptions. Let us know, sometimes some places are a little bit larger. It's easy we kind of know, Amazon, BCG, McKinsey, we know some of those bigger names, but sometimes smaller places, we may not know all of those ones just yet. So let us know or give a little quick description of what it is, where is it located? Some of those things can help us understand it better. Um, with that, focus on achievements and what you added value-wise rather than just a list of responsibilities. I think you can definitely include things that you were responsible for, but we're going to read through that. I know myself personally, I go through and read all of it because I want to know what you've done, what you achieved while you were working at that company, and kind of learn more about your employment history and experiences. Um, with that, you're going to need to include proof of employment, and this is going to kind of tie into, you know, when you do this, make sure that the employment history is all going to match up. I think it's easy to put down that, you were maybe an analyst when if we go back and look at your proof of employment, which we'll dive into in just a second, it may say you were an intern or something to that effect. Same thing, I work for Evelyn and Evelyn works for Yale. I didn't work for Yale. I worked for Evelyn. So make sure that those things are accurate and reflect that. And one other detail to it, it's okay to include activities that are important to you. It's part of the holistic process. We want to get to know you better. And so adding some of that information is helpful for us to get to know you just a little bit better and maybe some of your interests and skills you have. So as I mentioned, proof of employment is important. And it's important for a couple reasons. So we do a background verification process once you're admitted. And that's something that having some of the proof of employment documents already handy, one, that makes that process a little bit easier. And two, we want to see proof of employment so that we can review that employment on your resume. So if there's no proof of employment, we can't really review it and see, look at it as we would look at, employment that has proof or other pieces. What that proof might be, a contract, pay slip, letter from human resources, tax documents, internship certificate, all of those sorts of things that are going to have, name, a little bit of information, something that's going to be able to provide us, documentation that you did this work. As I mentioned, don't list, any informal unpaid part-time work. Don't list, work that maybe, like I said, I worked for Evelyn, Evelyn works for Yale, I didn't work for Yale. You can include this, but make sure that it's clear in a sort of separate section. Maybe, if you have work experience and then additional experience or something to that effect, you can absolutely put it in there, but make sure that anything you're going to list under work experience, you've got proof for, and it's going to be reflected accurately in that proof. And one other thing that I want to mention, only because someone brought this to my attention the other day. We're looking at, just because you maybe didn't work at BCG, Amazon, McKinsey, and I use those examples because they're the easy off the top of my head ones that I know we have a lot of students that go on to work at. Just because you haven't worked there, that's not going to affect you negatively in your application. We're looking at what you've done, what you added value-wise, what your employment history is. We're also looking at what you're hoping to do, what you're hoping to get out of the program. And I know Evelyn's going to dive into the essay portion of this in just a minute, but don't think negatively or think just because you haven't had one of those internship experiences that's going to negate all the great experience you have had to this point. And I'll pass it over to Evelyn now to dive into some of the essays and other fun things.
Thanks, Matt. Really great points there. All right, before we get to the essays, we're going to talk about your letters of recommendation. So these are also an important part of your application, and we require 2 letters of recommendation, one from a professional source and another from your MIM school. So the professional letter of recommendation has to come directly to us from your recommender and from their professional email account. We don't accept Gmail, Hotmail, QQ, any of those personal email accounts we won't be able to accept. So please make sure that when you fill in this portion of your application, you enter your recommender's professional email account. Thinking carefully about who is the best person to ask to be your recommender is a really important part of this. So the best advice for us here to give you is to choose somebody who knows you really well, who can speak to your character, what it was like working with you, tell us some great stories, tell us about your goals and aspirations and your potential within the working environment. All of those things are more important than a really impressive title. So again, think carefully about who knows you well and who would be your best recommender to ask from one of your current or previous work experiences. Um, Remember to request both letters of recommendation well in advance. Recommenders are really busy people, and we do require your recommendation letters to be in by the application deadline in order to be able to start reviewing your application. So again, approach your recommenders well in advance, give them plenty of time to write a really great letter for you. Sometimes we know that recommenders might request or suggest that a candidate might even write the letter themselves and then just send it to the recommender to submit to us. If that happens to you, then it's time to find a new recommender. You really want to make sure that you're asking somebody who has the time and the energy and enthusiasm to write a really great letter for you. So please keep that in mind. Again, choosing the right recommender here is really key. So something to think about carefully as you're preparing your application. The second letter of recommendation required, again, comes from your MIM school. And if you're going to be applying to us through the M2M pathway, this is something that would be waived because, of course, you haven't yet begun your MIM. But if you all are already in or have finished your MIM program, we would ask your dean or director of the MIM program to write a letter of recommendation for you. So just because we say the word dean here doesn't mean you should approach the dean of your school, but sometimes schools might have this position be titled either a dean or a director. It's different depending on the different schools. So that's why we write that here. With this letter of recommendation, we're basically looking for a character reference. We're looking to learn about what you were like as a student. We want to know that you were a good citizen of the school, that you completed your program well, that you were involved with the community, those types of things. So again, it's important to reach out to this person early, give them plenty of time to write you a great recommendation letter, and we will ask them to submit it to us directly and not through you. Come on, slides. Okay. Essays. So I'm going to talk through each of the 3 essay prompts that we have as part of our application. So what I'll do is read the prompt and then kind of share with you some tips or ideas to think about as you are creating your responses to these questions. Our essays are short. They're about 250 words or to 300 words in length each. So again, not a lot of space to kind of dive into um, too many different avenues of answers. So just keep this in mind when you're preparing your answers. Again, it should be direct and to the point because you don't have too many extra words to talk about here. Okay, so essay number 1. The MMS GBS is a second graduate degree following your Master in Management. What do you hope to get out of this degree to complement your Master in Management education? How will the MMS GBS help you advance your impact, not only in business, but especially in society? So, this essay question is really asking about your connection to our mission. The mission at Yale School of Management is educating leaders for business and society. So, this is something that's really important to us. We're really looking to bring together students who resonate personally with this mission and really carry a sense of purpose in the work that they do and want to give back to society once you've finished your education. So tell us what this mission means to you. How do you connect with it? Um, and connect the dots for us as well. Why does the GBS program make sense for you? What are you planning to get from the program? And how are you going to be giving back after you finish the program as well? So again, really think about the mission in this essay question and what it means to you. Number 2. We are looking for excellent candidates to join the GBS program. Excellence can take many different forms. Explain what excellence means to you and why you will be an excellent GBS student and future Yale SOM alum. So there's no right or wrong answer to any of these essay questions, and this is a pretty open-ended one. Also bear in mind for all of these essay questions that this is an opportunity for us to get to know you as a candidate, and we want to know what's important to you, and what have you kind of looked to achieve so far throughout your life and in the future. So in this question, we're again really looking to get to know you a little bit more. How do you define excellence? What does it mean to you? How have you pursued excellence so far in your life, and how will you do so going forward in the future as well? What is the most important element for you to look for excellence in your life? So a few different things to think about here, but again, this is more of an open-ended question for us to get to know you and what's really important to you. Number 3, GBS graduates go on to pursue global careers in different fields and industries. What do you envision for your future career? What parts of the GBS program, both the flexible curriculum and the resources Yale has to offer, will help you achieve this career goal? So there's kind of a lot in this one. Obviously, we're asking about your careers. and what your goals are going forward. So tell us clearly, what is your short-term career goal and your long-term career goal? So how do you see your career kind of progressing as your career goes on? And how will the GBS program help you to achieve those goals? So tie it back in directly to Yale, directly to the GBS program. Um, Let us know, are there any courses that specifically interest you that will help you achieve your career goals? Are there clubs? Are there other resources at Yale that will be of interest and relevant to you in achieving your goals? We really want to see that you've done your research on the program and the school, and also, again, have you connect the dots for us and make this make sense? Why does it make sense for you to take the GBS program? And how are you going to use those skills going forward to achieve your career goals? Overall, again, we're really looking to get to know you in all three of these essay questions. There are no right or wrong answers, but it's a really great opportunity to share who you really are as an applicant. Make sure you proofread your essay questions and your whole application, but your essay questions as well. And stay true and authentic to yourself, because that's what we're really looking for in these essay questions. And now I'm going to hand it over to Matt for the optional information essay.
So there's one other essay, and that is the optional information essay. This is not meant to be a, I want to come to Yale because, or sort of a, Yale is the perfect school for me, or any sort of love letter to Yale or anything like that. This should be an essay that clarifies something, whether it be in your academic history, in your resume. It should be used for clarifying something that you think the admissions committee might look at and have pause or, wonder about. So maybe there's a gap in your resume because COVID or something came up. This is an essay where you can kind of explain, hey, I was doing A, B, and C. Unfortunately, COVID happened and, I was laid off. Maybe I'm sure many of you were in school, so maybe grades, same kind of thing, or maybe there was a particular class that you struggled in. Use this essay to, bring to the attention or, bring it up so that, we're gonna see it. So it's better that you kind of mention it as well. I think often people say, control the narrative. This is sort of that opportunity. Bring it up, talk about, explain what happened, how you, handled it, what you did to kind of fix it, come back from it, whatever it may be, and sort of what you've done since then that will reassure us that it won't happen again, and, how you've kind of learned from it. That is the easiest way to go about it. And again, this is not meant to be a love letter to Yale or anything like that, so please don't use it as such. Video questions. So this is one of the fun pieces. I think it's a great opportunity to really showcase a little bit more about yourself, and tell us a little bit more about you and why you're interested in the program. So once you pay our admission or our application fee and you've submitted your application, within, I believe it's 24 or 48 hours, you'll receive a link to go and complete 3 video questions. These 3 questions will be done in one sitting, no retakes. It takes less than 10 minutes. All of these questions, myself, Evelyn, we all, went through them, and it's something I know personally I went through and tried to sort of do it similar to how a student would, where you're going to get 60 to 90 seconds. The question is going to pop up, 60 to 90 seconds to think about your response, and then camera goes on, and you'll have between 60 and 90 seconds again to respond to the question. I went through, I did them myself. I can tell you, they can absolutely be done. And it's a fun opportunity to learn more about you and have an opportunity to talk about why you're interested in the program. Some of the questions are going to be more, personal ones. Some of them are going to be, an opportunity to see how you think on your feet. There's no preparation required for this. It's not something that you need to study for or anything like that. The biggest thing I can say is just be genuine when you're answering them. it's pretty easy to tell when someone's just reading off of, sort of a script or something like that. So please don't do that. And don't overthink the questions too. I think oftentimes people, dive into it and start overthinking the questions. Just answer the question. It's as simple as that. One tip I can give, as much as I say, you don't need to prepare anything, I do think it's helpful to have sort of a notepad and pen handy. Again, don't write a script, but the way I always kind of say it is similar to this is how I learned it in elementary school. Some of you might have had a similar experience. When you're writing an essay, it's 5 paragraphs, an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Think of it in a similar way. What's your introduction? What are your 3 main points? How are you going to close it? And make it that simple for yourself. And it'll really make it easy to where you can kind of look over, say, oh, that was my next point, talk about it, next point, and you can go right through it. It doesn't look like you're reading, I think that's the best way to go about it. But have fun with it. And then if you're invited to interview with us, that usually happens 2 to 3 weeks after the deadline. And it's done over Zoom. You don't need to come to New Haven or anything like that. It usually is about 30 minutes for that interview. And it's a great opportunity for us to dig deeper into aspects of your application that, we're wondering more about, that maybe the committee had questions about. And just get to know you better. It's nice to be able to put a face and everything to the application and learn more about you. Again, you really don't need to prepare for this. I think it's great to have sort of your resume handy if you can, just because, we're going to inevitably, I'm sure, ask questions. And it's always good to be able to look back and say, oh, yep, I remember this or, some part of it. But also remember, tell us more about yourself. This is an opportunity to showcase the best version of you and tell us more about you, your experiences, why you're interested and excited to be a part of this program potentially. All of those things we really want to get to see and know about you. Be genuine with it. Dress for success. Please dress for success when you come to the interviews. And, make sure that if you have any questions, you can bring them to the interview. Usually, I know myself, and I'm sure Evelyn too, we try to save a couple minutes at the end in case you have any questions. So definitely feel free to bring any questions you might have, and we'll try to get those answered for you at the end. And again, a great opportunity to have fun and be genuine and just showcase the best version of you and really kind of add that final touch to your application. So I think we'll dive into the Q&A portion and take some of your questions. So feel free to use the Q&A button or option at the bottom to add some questions. Yeah, we'll dive into those.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Hopefully this has been helpful so far in terms of what we're looking for in each element of the application. And I'm also going to ask my colleague Elena, who's working the magic behind the scenes for this webinar today, to just post in the chat our GBS brochure, as well as I know we haven't really covered too much information about the program itself in this webinar. So once she gets a chance to do that, then please feel free to download that, take a look. There's lots more information about the program in there. So that will be a good resource for you. And of course, like we mentioned, also we have other webinar recordings on our website and lots more information on our website as well. Okay, there it is. Thanks, Elena. But yes, please feel free now to write any questions that you might still have about the application, about the program, or anything like that in the Q&A, and Matt and I will take some time to answer those questions now. We did have a couple pre-submitted before this webinar this morning or today, so happy to try and answer those as we're waiting for any more questions to come in. So the first question, which is actually a really great question, was what's the most important thing that we are looking for or considering in your applications? And there's actually lots of ways to stand out. So as we've mentioned earlier, we take a holistic approach to reading applications, and we really look at each of these different elements of the application to try and find candidates who are well-rounded and who can really bring excellence to the GBS program in a variety of different ways. So again, there's lots of different ways to stand out in our application. Of course, we're looking for academic excellence. We have a very rigorous academic program here at Yale, so that's something that you should be prepared for and something that we're looking for. But we're also looking for leadership experience or potential. So, of course, we know that GBS students tend to be more early career, so we're not expecting you to have lots of work experience to date, but we are looking at experiences that you have had so far and what your goals are, what you'd look to achieve. Of course, we mentioned earlier your connection to our mission, which is educating leaders for business and society. So tell us what that mission means to you and how you connect with it. So that's definitely something that we're looking for as well. International experience or exposure or kind of a global mindset are things that are important to us as well. So again, lots of different ways to stand out here. So keep all of that in mind as you're preparing your application as well. All right, great. I see we have some questions coming in, which is awesome. I don't know, Matt, if you've had a chance to read them yet, but I'm going to go and read some now and see if we can answer them.
I was gonna say, I know there's always one that comes up that I was gonna touch on. So a lot of times we'll get questions about sort of GMAT scores or what's the average GMAT score, what's the average GPA, all of those sorts of questions. And one of the big things, there is no minimum score. We don't want to dissuade anyone from applying. We're looking at the entire application. So if you feel your score is a little bit low, you can certainly take the test again. Maybe if your grades are really good and your test score is here, that kind of balances is out. Same thing, if your grades are maybe a bit lower than you would like, but your test score is up here, then that sort of balances things out. We're looking at that as one component though. So don't focus too much on just, oh, I need to have I can't remember the exact what like a perfect score is, but let's say 100 out of 100. You don't need to have a 100 out of 100 to get admitted. And in some ways too, just because you have that 100 out of 100, sometimes we have applicants that they think I can just put, I want to come to an Ivy League school, I want the network or the alumni network and the connections that Yale has. That's not going to get you admitted. That's we want to see that you connect with our mission, that you know what opportunities are available to you at Yale, that yes, you're going to be able to handle the academic rigor that this program has for students, but that you're also going to be a good steward of the program and that you're someone that is going to continue on and build off of the legacy that the students that have come before you have. So don't overthink the GMAT, GRE score or your grades too much. Make sure you do your best on it, but definitely don't be dissuaded just because you feel maybe it's a bit, lower than you think.
Thanks, Matt. Great. I see somebody asking here a question about our GBS concurrent degree programs, which is a really great question. So our concurrent degree programs are a kind of an agreement that we have with our partner schools. So we have our global network, GNAM, Global Network for Advanced Management Partner Schools. And GNAM, if you're not familiar with it, is a group of about 32 business schools across the entire world. And so it's this partnership between all these business schools, and many of them we have a partnership with basically for you, if you start your MIM or if you do your MIM program at one of those partner schools and then come to us as your second year for the GBS program, you can actually transfer some credits back from the GBS program that you take at Yale SOM back to your home school, your MIM school, and they will actually accept those credits towards your MIM degree. So that's what I was meaning earlier when I mentioned you have to have either finished or be working towards completing um, a MIM in a partner school in order to be eligible for the GBS program. So yes, there are a bunch of partner schools that we have this agreement with, and essentially you do year one at our partner school, and then year two in the GBS program, and you can transfer some of those credits back So at the end of the 2 years, you'll be graduating with a MIM from our partner school and the GBS degree from SOM. So we're actually working on building out this portion of our website. So I don't have I don't have a list off the top of my head to share with you about the schools that we have these agreements with. I know FGV in Brazil is one. Fudan, IE, just to name a couple off the top of my head. But other partner schools, you would actually just complete your MIM program first and graduate and then come to us in the second year. So it depends a little bit. But if you email us at gbs@yale.edu, we can definitely send you a list of the schools that we have this concurrent degree partnership with, if that's something that you would like to take into consideration, either as you're applying to potentially your MIM program, but also the GBS.
I saw a question. This person was kind of talking, going off of the piece about grades, and I think this will be a great point to touch on. So they said that they had average grades in their undergrad, with COVID and everything, but they'd done a lot of sort of extracurriculars, founding a choir, being a TEDx speaker, and they're working towards their master's right now, it sounds like. So this is actually a great point, and they'd asked if they should still apply. And I think there's 2 points to this question that I want to make. One, I think the should I still apply? I think absolutely. If you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in developing certain skills or diving, we always talk about it as going broader. If there's skills that you want to shore up before you get out there into the professional world, or if there's an area that you want to dive a little bit deeper in before you get into the professional setting, absolutely, this program might be the right fit for you. There's a lot of flexibility in the program that allows you that opportunity to kind of build a curriculum that is focused on what you want to learn, which I think is great. So that's the first point. The second point I would make, some of these extracurriculars that you mentioned, add them to your resume. Like I said, we want to get to know more about you, what you've done, what are your interests, those sorts of things. But going to the point about sort of their undergraduate grades and some of that, and they mentioned COVID, I think that's a great opportunity for the optional essay. So this is what the optional essay is meant for. I'm not able to really write it out for you, but this is where you could say, hey, here's what happened in undergrad, here's what I've done to, or, here's what happened. I tried to do better. Now in my master's, you can see I've really focused on it. It's not going to happen because of A, B, and C. Perfect. That's the sort of thing that optional essay is for, is to be able to point to this, say, hey, I recognize that this happened. That's totally okay. Things happen. Here's what happened. And look at what I've done since then that showcases that I've grown, or, I've improved from that. So definitely, I think I think it could be great to apply, but definitely dive into it a little bit further. Look at some of the classes. If you go to our website, you can click on the curriculum section, and you should be able to kind of go through some of the courses that are offered here. Take a look at some of that, see if there's courses that may fit with what you're hoping to get from the program, and go from there. But definitely take a look, and I think it could be great to apply to.
Thanks, Matt. There's another question here from somebody asking about a gap in work experience, and if you've taken a break from your career, or even a leave of absence during your studies. Basically, if you have any kind of gaps in your resume, asking for advice about how to address that in the optional essay question or in the application. So that's a really great question, and that's definitely something that we look for as we are reviewing applications. We're kind of looking at your chronology and what you've been up to from then until now, and if there are gaps, then we would like those to be explained. So basically, my best advice is just to share with us what you were doing and why you made that choice to take that gap. Was there, were you having health difficulties? Was somebody in your family experiencing something like that and you needed to go care for them? There's lots of different reasons why somebody might choose to kind of take a break, take a leave of absence from school or take a break from work experience. And so just tell us what those are. Again, why you made that experience, maybe what you gained from that period of taking that break, if it affected anything. But yeah, just kind of talk us through your reasoning for that and what it was that you were doing. Basically, we just kind of want to know that you weren't just sitting on the couch doing nothing for that period. Any other questions? I don't see anything else coming through in the Q&A just now, but please feel free to ask any other questions. And if we covered everything, then Matt and I can go ahead and give you our final piece of advice for the application.
And one other note, I'll kind of throw this out there in case anybody has a last minute question they're typing. Definitely take a look at our website. There's a lot of great information on there about the curriculum, the different programs and opportunities. Um, as Evelyn mentioned, some of our degree programs, the concurrent, M2M, all those sorts of things. One of the other things I want to touch on is our admissions ambassadors. If you have questions about the program, I myself did not go through this program. I've been working here for a little while, and I try to talk to the students as much as possible, and I work with the admissions ambassador. So I like to think I have a little bit of a, idea of what they're going through and what the program's like. But definitely check that out on our website, the admissions ambassador section. Reach out to some of them and ask them questions. See, what they're doing, what classes they like, what they like about the program, what they maybe don't like as much. They're going to be able to give you a lot of great information, resources, and really be helpful, I think, to a lot of students. I know a lot of the best applications we get, those people have usually talked to an ambassador or an alumni of the program. So they've learned a little bit more about how to make, an application that someone successfully got into the program did. What are some great classes? What are some things going on across campus? What are some clubs and activities that you can get involved in? So definitely, don't be shy about reaching out to some of them and asking questions and just learning more about the program that way too.
Yeah, great advice. Thanks, Matt. I do see one more question that came in asking about kind of the difference between the MBA and also the Silver Scholars Program, and if it's kind of targeted towards different types of students. So great question. We do have different degree programs that we have here at Yale SOM. So, of course, we also have an MBA program, and then part of that MBA program is our Silver Scholars program. So, Silver Scholars is actually, yeah, a program within the MBA which is targeting younger students, generally students who have just completed their undergrad degree. So no work experience necessary. Generally, Silver Scholars have a really clear idea of what it is they're looking to do and achieve. And so that kind of sets them apart in terms of wanting to achieve their career goals uh, really early and really soon. So these are really standout, exceptional students who are on the younger side and have generally just finished their undergrad as opposed to our other kind of more general MBA population, which tends to be a little bit older, like a little bit more work experience. About 5 years of work experience is the average for an MBA student. So those are kind of the differences between the MBA and the Silver Scholars population of MBA students. And I guess I would say the difference between the general MBA program and the GBS program at SOM, of course, the MBA program is 2 years long and the GBS is a 1 year program. So you can kind of think of the GBS a little bit more as a 1+1. So you would do your first year at a MIM school outside of SOM and then come to SOM for your second year. The advantages of that are that you get two networks and two schools that you're part of. So again, student networks and also alumni networks and career development opportunities from two different schools through the GBS program. The MBA, of course, is a 2 year program that's just going to be at Yale SOM. So that's something to consider as you're considering those different options. Another thing I would mention candidly is that if working in the US is something that is really important to you and you really want to pursue that after your degree, I might I might suggest that you really consider an MBA program in general. Currently in the US, the MBA really tends to be um, the most well-known program that employers are aware of. So it's something that it may be easier for you to find work in the US if you have an MBA degree, as opposed to a GBS degree, which you kind of need to explain a little bit more to employers in the US. Masters in management programs are currently growing in the US, but of course, in many other places around the world, they're much more standardized and well known. So it really depends on where you are um, in terms of your work experience and your goals as well. Again, I think it's a great opportunity for kind of a 1+1 and for two networks and um, two career development opportunities or centers to be helping you to look for your next step and help you get there if you wanted to consider doing a MIM and then a GBS degree. I don't know if you have anything to add, Matt.
No, I think that's perfect. I think, as Evelyn mentioned, one of the big things too is with the GBS, typically you're going to have a MIM and a GBS degree, which I think is great. The MBA program, nothing bad to say there. I myself have an MBA. So I think it's just kind of figuring out which one is the right program for you again. And again, I think looking at sort of the mission and all of those pieces can really help you kind of determine, which program might be the right fit, and what may be the next step for you applying to those programs. And definitely feel free again to reach out to us. We're happy to connect and kind of talk a little bit if you're unsure about which program might be right or if the GBS program is the right program for you.
The other thing I think we can say that's also important is our community here at SOM is really integrated and
Mhm.
connected. So again, the GBS program is very open for you to choose your own electives and to kind of choose your own path of study. You'll be sitting in those elective courses next to MBA students, next to Master of Advanced Management students, really with students across all of our different degree programs. You'll also be joining clubs with MBA students and other degree program students and social events. Everybody's mixing together. So there's plenty of opportunities to get to know and network with our MBA and other degree program students as well. And again, our community is very interconnected and integrated. So it's not like you're kind of just going to be siloed into your one degree program once you get here. So hopefully that helps as well. All right, great. Let's move along to our final piece of advice. So, Matt, do you want to share yours first?
Sure. So I think my final piece of advice would be to plan ahead. We've talked a little bit about this. Deadlines can really sneak up on you, and we may not be able to move forward with reading your application if it's not complete. This goes for everything, including letter of recommendations. So ask your recommender well in advance so they have plenty of time to kind of be able to write your letter and get it submitted. And make sure, you can absolutely submit your application at, 11:59 p.m. of round 3 and still be admitted. We've had students do it, but it provides a ton of stress for everyone involved and, a lot of panic. So definitely plan ahead, make sure that you've, asked your recommenders, you've gotten everything together so that you can submit it with maybe time to spare. Because again, just a reminder, the video questions usually come 24 to 48 hours within that time frame after you've submitted everything. So it becomes a little bit stressful if, you're at the deadline trying to submit and work through all of that. That would be my final piece. How about you, Evelyn?
Thanks, Matt. Great advice. Um, Completely agree with everything that Matt just said. In addition, I would really recommend that you are truly authentic to yourself throughout this application. We're really trying to get to know you as a candidate, what's important to you, and what makes you unique. What experiences do you have? What goals do you have? Um, who really are you? And make sure that you're really showing us your true voice through your application. Um, of course, it's good to be prepared, but it's also really good to make sure that you're staying true to who you are in the application. Again, also connect the dots for us. Tell us, why does this program make sense for you? What are you going to gain from it? And how is it really going to help you in your next career move? Also, again, we keep mentioning it, but it's something that's really important to us. Connect with our mission. Let us know how this mission resonates with you. What does it mean to you personally? And how are you planning to give back to society after both during the program, but also after the program concludes? So those are a few pieces of key advice that I think are really good and helpful to help you prepare your best application for the GBS. And with that, we would just want to say a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. We're always so happy to see so much interest in our programs. We have a couple of QR codes to share with you here. The first one on the left is going to take you to our website, where, of course, you can learn lots more information about our GBS program. And then the one on the right is going to take you to our upcoming events page. We really wanted to highlight an upcoming event for you as well. On the 31st of January at 9:30 in the morning Eastern Time, we're going to be hosting a student panel webinar. This is always one of our favorite events and also most attended events throughout the year as well. We're going to have a panel of 3 of our current GBS students in person to share with you their experiences with the GBS program, what it's been like for them, how it's helping them with their recruiting and with their next career moves. And like what Matt was saying earlier, I think it's really meaningful hearing these experiences directly from the students. So this is a great opportunity to hear from them themselves as they're sharing more information about their experiences with the program. So put that on your calendar, but there's also some more upcoming events as well to check out on our website there. Last thing, please keep in touch. Reach out to us at any time. Our email here is gbs@yale.edu. This is the fastest and most efficient way to get in touch with us. We're constantly monitoring that inbox. So never hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about the program, about the application. Again, if you'd like to connect with any current students, please email us. We're always happy to talk with prospective students and answer any questions you might have at all. So don't be a stranger. Please reach out to us. And thank you all so much for joining us today.